So we have a huge number of independent, startup, hybrid, and micro schools around the country, but there are actually a number of existing networks and supporters groups around the country that have been doing work and are growing now. So that's what this session is about. So our panelists come from a few different networks, and they'll talk about kind of who they are, what they do, what they offer, and maybe how schools can become part of their networks. So we'll go in a different order, but our first group is the National Association of University Model Schools. And from NOMS, we have John Turner and Alan Marshall. Dr. John Turner is the Senior Executive Officer of NOMS, the parent corporation of University Model Schools International. His family was involved in the first university model school formed in 1993. Today, there are 84 schools in 27 states. Dr. Turner is author of Character-Driven College Preparation, the primary resource used by these schools to ground them in the mission and method of the model. Dr. Alan Marshall graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy with honors and a double major in astronautical engineering and mathematics. After various flying assignments, he eventually became a U-2 pilot and served as the squadron commander of a U-2 combat flying squadron. After retirement from active duty, he led a 5-day classical Christian school to full accreditation with the Association of Classical Christian Schools, and he later led the largest university model school in the nation to accreditation in ACCS. Dr. Marshall holds an MAS in Applied Mathematics from the University of Washington, an MAS in Aeronautical Sciences from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and a PhD in Organizational Leadership from Regent University. Then next we have Dawn Soifer and Ashley Campbell from SNUMA in Nevada. Dawn and Ashley lead Microschooling NV, the award-winning microschooling initiative from Nevada Action for School Options. This first of its kind public-private partnership microschool they created with the city of North Las Vegas has garnered national attention for its powerful learning gains and immediate popularity within that historically underserved urban community. Since then, their movement-building network, training program, and leadership for both partnership and independent microschools in Southern Nevada and other regions around the country is known for its emphasis on building microschools around an understanding of the particular educational needs of learners and their families. Next, we have Rob Jackson from Great Hearts Academies in Arizona. Rob Jackson serves as the executive director of the Institute for Classical Education at Great Hearts America. For a dozen years, he served as a professor of English and education at the King's College in New York, training future teachers in the rudiments of educational history and philosophy. Along with book chapters, his articles have been published in Society, Academic Questions, Myth, Lore, and Comment. Dr. Jackson has received awards for teaching excellence at Florida State University and the King's College, as well as the 21 Salvatore Prize for American Citizenship. And our first speaker today is going to be Rosario Riley from Aquinas Learning Centers in Virginia. Rosario Riley is a homeschooling mom of 5, 3 of whom are now in college at Benedictine College, Ave Maria University, and Christendom College. In 2009, in the search for a true Catholic classical education for her children, she founded the Aquinas Learning Program for her local community of homeschoolers. Today, there are several centers licensed to use her curriculum in the US and around the world. She and her husband, Patrick, founder of the Cardinal Newman Society, continue to homeschool their remaining children at their home in Manassas, Virginia. So we'll start with Rosario. Please welcome Rosario Riley.
Thank you very much, Eric, and thank you so much for having this very first conference of its kind. It's kind of exciting to be here and hear everybody's ideas. I'm learning a lot already. I wish it were like 3 days. But anyway, so my name again, like he said, I keep getting stuck here, is Rosario Riley with Aquinas Learning. And as usual, with a lot of you, I think the cause of why we're doing this is our children, right? So I got my master's in ed originally and was a teacher in a school. And as I progressed looking at the different school options, I decided, and this was pre-COVID even, 2009, to start the Aquinas Learning Program because we really wanted a Catholic bent that filled every integrated our curriculum in every way, and we liked the Aquinas way, in which he was a scholastic, and he questioned things, but gave the opposition really the best light before he addressed his objections and how he answered. So we really liked his way, and it really falls from the heritage of 2,000 years of Catholic teaching. So all the way down to Socrates and pre-Catholic, and then Christianized, and then Aquinas, Augustine, etc., all the way up to John Henry Newman. So we've taken all of that heritage and put it to the Aquinas Learning Program. So it's a K-12 curriculum for homeschoolers. And it's a support to homeschoolers because, again, as a homeschooler myself in the beginning, doing eclectic schooling and independent co-op type situation, what I found was missing, I wanted that bridge between school and homeschool, or being extremely independent. And as you know, with if you're a homeschooler, there are so many programs out there, it can get a little overwhelming, right, and stressful. Ooh, sorry. So just remind me, 10 minutes in a row, because I'm quite a talker. So the mission is to form humans. I think, like John was saying, it's different from feeding information. So it's not the K-12 volume, but really it's the formation of the human being and trying to get them to become saints. We teach, when I train parents, I tell them there's really two things we're teaching. To make it very simple, it's content and skills, right? So what makes Aquinas Learning distinct is that, can you not hearing? Okay, can you hear me better now? Okay, perfect, thank you. Is that we teach content as a family unit, so everybody in the K-12 classroom is learning the same content, but of course at their different levels. And skills are different, so for skills, they're being taught custom to their age. So math is at, you can't teach K and 3 the same math. So that's custom. Skills, thinking, learning, listening, paying attention, all of those things are customized. And the content is based on a 3-year cycle that repeats. So the other thing that we do differently is that we have a mixed age classroom. So we have levels. So the Prima 1 level, let's say, is 1st through 3rd grade. And the reason we've done that, it's hat tip really to Andrew Pudo, if some of you know him. He said you really need a mixed age because you have the older kids who are then training the younger. So it's really more part of the leadership program. And then, a 3rd grader feels like he's a senior because he really knows, how the 1st through 3rd grade level goes. But once he gets to the Prima 2 level, he's suddenly a freshman again. And so he has the humility to be the youngest in the 4th through 6th grade level. So again, you have that system of 4, 5, and 6, and the 6th grader is the senior in that class. And then it repeats again, 7th through 9th, and then we have 10th through 12th. So all of those, they're mixed classrooms. Because this panel really is about networking and how it's spread in the different places, we obviously grew our particular center, which is what my main focus is still. I'm still the director of 2 centers in Manassas right now, and we grew from 12 students to right now we have 156 students signed up for the fall, with several people waitlisted. So, but we have limitations to our facility because we haven't somehow figured out how to buy our own building yet, because we do meet once a week. So that's another distinguishing factor. The older grades, the upper school do meet twice a week, but once for each subject. So the second day of the week is really STEM, math, sciences, and that's more individual because some people need biology, some people need chemistry, so they're not all learning together. Whereas the first day, or the day 1, is the humanities classes, so that everyone learns in their particular level. We also have catechisms. I think John Bosco mentioned it earlier, where they they memorize things. Like, what is something you want them to remember about your class 5 years from now when you happen to see them in a reunion? For the students, if they're able to memorize, then it becomes part of them, really, of what it is that's so important that they'll remember. So we do that for all the classes as well. We also follow the adage that Mortimer Adler, he wrote a book, Reforming Education, that got me really started a long time ago. And then Circe Institute really formed me in forming the Aquinas Learning. Aquinas Learning is kind of a representation of everything I learned at Circe. Some of you have gone there. If you haven't, circeinstitute.org. Anyway, so Mortimer Adler, who wrote Reforming Education, said it's not so much how many books your children have read, it's how many books have gone through them. Okay, so we try, and that's the whole depth and breadth situation, so we remember that. As far as our curriculum goes, we really go for the premise that's in Philippians 8 through 9. And I'm going to summarize. You can look it up. Philippians 8 through 9, or 6 through 9 really is better. But essentially, it says to focus on what is true, good, beautiful, excellent. If it's worthy of praise, do those or think about them. And St. Paul says, do them. All right? So there's the do aspect that people also forget. And then the answer is the God of peace will be with you. And essentially, we homeschool parents and parents in general or teachers, don't we want the God of peace to be with us? That is the key. So as far as the support and licensing, we do have currently 9 states and several individuals. The form in which you can take our once-a-week hybrid homeschool. Okay, so we call it hybrid homeschool versus hybrid school. The difference is that we're still homeschool priority, I guess you would call it, where the parents are very much deeply in the partnership of schooling rather than having a school and then doing maybe 2 days a week at home as what the teacher told them to do. So they're still the drivers. And I find that the more you do it, and it's everybody has their own style. You know, it's not everybody who wants to do homeschooling. Some people want to do school, but they don't want the modern schools. They want this. So there's the university model, other models. I'll let them talk about that. But for us, it is mainly that once a week. It gives the parents more flexibility. So right now we have a lot of people doing the ALH, or Aquinas Learning, at home, independently, just using our curriculum, registering to get that information. Then there's the ALVC, Virtual Center, that has things virtually, thanks to COVID. We learned how to do that. And then we have AL centers, and that's the center that I was talking about, Manassas. And now we have centers in 9 states, licensed to do our curriculum. And then there are ALH, or Aquinas Learning at Home families, and they're all over the US right now. There's also some centers in the Philippines, Brazil, Guam, and in the UK. So we're really excited to be growing this format. How do we support them? We support them by licensing the program that we use and having them register and have that facility using the LMS of Class Runner, but I heard about FACS, I'm going to look that up. We do webinars, several webinars to support them. We also have a yearly practicum for the parents and the mentors. And we help homeschool through high school by more webinars and helping them form their transcripts, because I think that's the part that intimidates parents the most. And like you heard, going back to the original reason I did this, it's my 5 kids. So after having graduated my first, I said, okay, it works. You know. So I have 3 now in college. One is graduating in 2 weeks. He took architecture from Benedictine and is getting married the year after. So that is quite concerning. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I believe I'm next. I'm with National Association of University Model Schools. The acronym for that is NAUMS, N-A-U-M-S. And the few PowerPoints that I will have with this will summarize what I'm about to describe. First of all, I want to bring you greetings from our executive director, Barbara Freeman, and she's been there for 20 years developing what today is an amazing organization of support for university model schools. There are 4 of us representing the organization here. Dr. Alan Marshall, you've already heard introduced, and he has graciously allowed me to take our 10 minutes here because he also spoke in a previous breakout session. There's also Tammy McElvoy, who's with Logos Prep in Sugar Land, Texas, near Houston. There's also Bo Dollins, whom you heard from earlier in the opening session today. So we all are part of that organization. Let me give you a website that you can go to if you want to explore more information or make contact. It's umsi.org. That's University Model School International. UM, as in Mary, umsi.org. And NAUMS is the parent organization, the parent corporation, and UMSI, University Model Schools International, is the school component now of that parent organization. And so I'm going to talk more about the university model here briefly. So now in the next few minutes, I get to summarize what it normally takes us 40 hours to explain at our new school development workshops. And so I'm going to try to hit just some very important high points. I know in the opening session we were talking about, well, are you homeschool or are you private school? And some said the answer to that is yes. The way that we explain it to our constituency that are coming into the university family, and as we continue to emphasize it, is that we say it this way: we are not homeschool, and we are not traditional school. We are a third kind. We truly are. And those that know the model know exactly what we're talking about. We are not homeschool. Now, our family was a homeschooling family when we first discovered the university model. Our 5 children were homeschooled. They are all adults and walking with the Lord today. We have 17 grandchildren, and so we're thrilled about all of that. We have the hearts of homeschoolers. But when we discovered the university model, here is the one thing that you do as a homeschooler when you're entering the university model. You begin to entrust the curriculum development to the professional school teachers and faculty. You are no longer in charge of the curriculum. Now you are in charge of being mom or being dad with your student. To be the parent, you're given more time to be with your student at home through the university model. And you've already heard about a lot of that through the discussions that have happened this morning. And I got to tell Julie publicly in the last session how much I felt like I've just met a cousin that I never knew about because of all that they're doing at St. John Bosco, and it's thrilling to hear about it. But we're not homeschool because we entrust to professional educators the scope and sequence, the curriculum alignment, all of that would go on so that we're free to have the time with the children. We're not traditional education because we're not in class 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You're rather set up like a university. Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, Tuesday, Thursday classes, and when the students are not in class, they're at home under the direction of that professional teacher, but doing things that are age appropriate in mentoring of the students in the home environment to keep that connection at home. As has been so adequately and beautifully expressed already in these sessions, parents are the key to it all. Parents are every student's first and most influential teacher. Even when parents say, well, I don't know that I'm really a good teacher, they're wrong. You are a teacher by design with your children. You're every child's first and most influential teacher. And the university model seeks to access that primary influence in 2 major ways: spiritual formation and spiritual growth, and then also in academic excellence. Parents are at the foundation of both of those things. So we say that university model school combines the best attributes of home with the best attributes of traditional education and combines them into one model. We call it a tertium quid. It's those of you that are Latin people, a third kind, and it creates its own energetic culture of genuine partnership between parent and teacher, between home and school. And so, who is Noms? First of all, Noms is a distinctly Christian organization. So we are faith-based, obviously. In Noms' case, it's evangelical Protestant is their statement of faith. And this is how we will summarize it. And you'll see these next words when we're summarizing in a few minutes. We are an educational community of Christ followers called together to a kingdom model of disciple making that begins in the home. Again, we are an educational community of Christ followers called together to a kingdom model of disciple making that begins in the home. Let me break that apart, and if you're taking some quick notes, this will not be on the PowerPoint, just put mission, strategy, and service. Mission, strategy, and service. The mission of the university model is to help make followers of Jesus, help make disciples. The strategy for that is partnering with parents as the primary and most influential disciple makers of a child. That we build on what parents do in their home, and we make a point not to try to replace parents, but to partner with parents. So the strategy is to partner with parents, and then the service, mission, strategy, service. Mission is the making of disciples. Strategy is partnering with parents. The service is excellence in academics. Academics are the services that we perform and all that goes with being a school, so that we are serving parents and meeting some of their needs, because we've already heard how overwhelming being a homeschooler can be, and you need partnership and you need help. And so parents being right in the middle of that, partnering with parents for the spiritual formation and disciple making, partnering with parents in the educational excellence of the school. That pretty much summarizes the perspective that we see for the university model. So for teachers, this means you can actually give them students who are eager to learn and know how to listen to adults and know how to behave. When you've been a part of a homeschooling community, I know that you've already observed the students that have been brought up in a homeschooling environment are comfortable having conversations with adults, are comfortable with being with other age groups, and they're not compartmentalized. And there's just something going on within them, that there's a motivation. So you give to teachers the actual opportunity to teach instead of just do crowd control. And so that's what you do for teachers. For parents, you make sure that they're not alone in their task. They have a partnership. They have a community of support for what they're trying to do, and a valuing of who they are as parents as you're trying to build upon the foundation that they're doing. So the university model has been an established trademark for 20 years. The advantage of having a trademark, university model, and then the registered trademark right after that when you see that in print. University model is a trademark. It gives NOMS the opportunity to set definition and standards as to what a university model school is and does. It's standards of excellence. And so Barbara Freeman led in the first certification processes for university model schools. And so NOMS will help equip these schools. Once they're underway, we certify the schools because they're on a continuous improvement plan through the certification process. And now in the last 2 years, that certification process has been accepted as being automatic accreditation with Cognia. So it's called systems accreditation. That when you're a member of NOMS and you're in the family and you are certified with NOMS, you are accredited automatically with Cognia. So that is the respect level there is just for the standards of excellence that are there for best practices through the university model. And it's a thrilling thing to see take shape. So to be a part of NOMS, you first become a member. The way that you typically will do that, the way that it has been and will be for the foreseeable future, is you start with a phone conversation with Barbara Freeman, our executive director. She explains the aspects of being a member, and beginning with the fact we are a distinctly Christian organization, and then talk about all the rest of it. If you decide then you want to become a member of NOMS, according to how she has described that, Then you are allowed to come to a new school development workshop, which is a week-long process where all of the different moving parts of starting a school are covered by different practitioners who have done it. And then you're off and running, and now you're going to be looking for certification and accreditation as you continue to develop in the future. The one thing I want to say in the way of support, which is the emphasis of this, is critical in the university model is the spiritual formation and family ministry component. What you have is Christian parents who really value discipling their children. They want to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean they automatically know how to do it or what to do in their homes. So the spiritual formation and family ministry component is the school coming alongside parents and helping them to envision what it looks like to raise up disciples within their home context, because that's what the school builds upon. It also carries over into the educational component. It's really true that without parents doing their part, the university model falls apart. We all understand the importance of parents in education. We all understand that. We all want it. We all value it. The university model absolutely depends upon it. Without parents doing their job, it's better for that student to be somewhere else in education because parents are so critical in the model. So we will say, without parents, this model really cannot work. As a summary, there's your statement. We are an educational community of Christ followers called together to a kingdom model of disciple making that begins in the home. Every word in that statement has been carefully selected and crafted. The vision of Noms, and I can't read it from here, to multiply and to grow local educational communities, translated schools, local educational communities worldwide that help parents prepare life-equipped and college-worthy disciples of Jesus for the next generation. So that's the vision. The mission, same thing, just fewer words. We're building dynamic university model school communities worldwide. And finally, the message that we seek to give parents repeatedly, we've done it from the very beginning, and we continue to. It's simply this: parents, you are God's anointed for your children, and no one can take your place. And we want to position you to be who God has designed you to be and to do what He wants you to do, and we want to value that and come alongside you in the education of your children. No one can take your place.
Who is feeling the unschooling in this room? Can you hear me? We're Don and Ashley. We live in Las Vegas, and we're here to tell you about the microschooling work that we lead that we think is an incredibly powerful way to support the really amazing hybrid learning that we're all here to take part in, learn from, and carry on. We see the microschooling world in two halves. We see independent microschools that you're hearing a lot about from here, that we just need to be a multifamily learning environment that can take all sorts of forms in a home and a church basement, that are really embodying this just watershed moment where millions of American families are just reconsidering their historic relationships with the institutions they've historically relied upon to serve their educational needs. 2.5 to 3 million learners, the smart researchers in the other room are telling us, and just an exciting watershed moment. The other side that we see is partnership microschooling, that we didn't exactly plan on taking on the way that we did at the start of the pandemic, when it became painfully obvious that the fifth largest school district in the country, the Clark County Schools, were going to not open and not serve the residents of the city of North Las Vegas, which is the poorest, fastest growing, hardest working city in Nevada that has been disabused and mistreated by that school district for decades. We were in talking to the leadership of the city about traditional school choice, how to locate charter schools in certain parts of the city. And we just realized, and we had a background in microschooling and in personalized learning, and we just realized they needed to do something more radical. So we knew exactly what we wanted to do. We went home, worked through the night, walked into the city manager's office the next morning, threw 2 briefing books on his desk, and the Southern Nevada Urban Micro Academy was born. It's the first of its kind public-private partnership for microschooling. The city realized that pandemic learning loss was a major priority, and it wasn't going to be helped. We were competing literally with kids being left home alone with a jar of peanut butter during the pandemic, and wanted us to focus on pandemic learning loss, which is important, right? Because you don't need to do it this way every time. And when we first assessed the 100 kids that we served in year 1 for free, paid for by city dollars, totally outside of per pupil funding, for dimes on the dollar in a district that is not winning any awards for education funding, that we had to promise, first of all, 3/4 of our kids were more than 2 grade levels behind academically, right? So we were happy to see that because these are the kids that we were there to work with. And we had to promise the city contractually that we would deliver 125% academic growth from what they had been getting before. And we had the background, I'm a researcher by background, I knew we could blow the doors off that, and we did. I'll tell you about that in a sec. And it was an active partnership with the city. So in a partnership microschool, the host partner provided the space. We did it in the rec centers and libraries, 2 rec centers and 1 library that the city owns. They contracted with a technical partner, our nonprofit, to design a microschool and be responsible for teaching and learning. And we worked with some amazing partners to get that done in person every day during the pandemic. And the results, our kids, free for every learner, breakfast and lunch every day. The city is an active partner, right? A city is a great partner because they have an IT department. They owned a lot of secondhand desktops that we used. They staffed, the rec center staffed pick up and drop off, which is incredibly important to get right. We did gym every day. We delivered, our kids averaged 2 years of academic gains in reading in year 1, and a little bit less than same ballpark in math. And just as importantly, the parent satisfaction was through the roof multiple times. We've got case studies that we did with the Center for Reinventing Public Education and the RAND Corporation. There's hopefully on your table, we've got some stuff over there. Love to talk to you about. But these families never want to go back to what they were doing. And then the last thing, and I'll turn things over to Ashley to tell you about what we're prioritizing now, is that the main components of this, it's a foundational belief for us that microschooling, unlike the growth of the way the charter sector has grown that we both come from, and other sectors, is that to realize its potential, microschooling can really be built and needs to be designed around the needs of the particular learners that you're looking to serve and their families, and not just have to take something off the shelf because it worked in Seattle or Silicon Valley, the way the charter sector has evolved. And we prioritized learning growth in North Las Vegas because that was what we were charged to do. And the key component to the program, right, was it was combining the best of the personalized learning models in the best personalized learning schools around the country that I had the opportunity to work with. So personalized learning to meet each child where they are, with world-class adaptive learning tools, combined each day with a rich in-person experience that you could see in the novel study and the incredible conversations that these kids were having that's so much better than being left home alone with a jar of peanut butter. Timely feedback for all student work, that feedback loop that was meaningful feedback was something that we insisted on from our team that included some amazing experienced educators and some people from very different professional backgrounds. And it was a relationship-based program that was based on meaningful weekly goals and then just being thoughtful about reflecting on how you're doing with those goals, because we sat down with each family and had some tough conversations. You're a 5th grader, this is 2nd grade work. and where they wanted to be and work with them to design where those goals were going to be and then reflect on their progress. And that was, I think, the reasons why Ashley, who led the program every day, was able to accomplish the results that she was able to. So, Ashley?
Thank you. So Don was talking about SNUMA, which is our first ever partnership micro school model, and now we're really excited that we are able to talk to not only folks in Nevada, where we're from, but to go around the country and talk to different individuals and organizations that are interested in starting a partnership micro school model. So Don mentioned host partners, and in SNUMA, our host partner was the city. We are working with a variety of organizations to be host partners, so everything from houses of worship to employers to cities to associations, different organizations like that are really great host partners. Some of the exciting ones that we're working with right now, there's a really great church in West Virginia that's building a partnership micro school, and there's a lot of benefits that come to the host partner as well. So Don talked about the benefits to the families and the kids, but for example, the churches that we've worked, or the houses of worship that we've worked with in Nevada, some of the benefits that they've told us is that they're able to reach an area of their community that they haven't been able to reach before. They're able to serve community members that they typically don't serve. And in bringing them in and working with their kiddos and families, getting to know the families, so many of those families then become members of their congregation. Employers, we're talking to employers throughout the nation that are telling us right now is a really difficult time to retain and recruit employees. When you add a schooling option, a micro school on your place of work as a benefits option, becomes a really powerful tool to keep your employees, they're happy, they're not going anywhere, and to bring in new ones. In addition, the city got a ton of positive publicity, so they were really happy with that. That was a great benefit for them. And I think one of my favorite projects that we're working on right now is with a rural county in Nevada. So Nye County Library Board voted to fund a micro school in a library in one of their rural cities, Pahrump. So we're working with them. They reached out to us. They heard about SNUMA and they said, hey, we want to do this. And now my favorite part is saying, okay, here's SNUMA. Here's what worked for those families. Let's get to know your families, because it's not take this model from over here and put it here and let's make it work. It's know your families, know the needs of your learners, know the needs of your organization, and build a program that works, that will ensure that these kiddos will be successful in their schooling. And then Dawn also briefly mentioned the independent micro schools. So that the other side to that is we work with a constellation of over 20 independent micro schools in Nevada. Everything from 2 former traditional educators that opened up what I probably for me the most child-directed learning center that I've ever seen, along with a amazing therapist who opened up her therapy office, brought in some really cool interns from local colleges, and she is now a micro school for children with neurodiversities. We work with a really amazing guy who previously was pulling homeless teenage youth out from under the tunnels in Las Vegas. His business partner owns a world-class high-end fitness gym. He's building a micro school for these children to come to this gym and learn sports management and things like that they're really excited about. So we love to work with those folks as well and support what they're doing and help them build that program that works for them. And I think that's where hybrid comes in as a really exciting option as well. For example, my kiddos are in a hybrid micro school, and they go to the micro school 3 days a week, and the 2 days that they're not there, we've worked with the micro schooling leaders to really build a program that is built for them. So whether it's boxing lessons and art lessons and dance lessons, along with a project-based social emotional learning program that they're a part of, it's a partnership between the microschooling leader and myself as a parent to build that program to make sure that the days that my children aren't there in the micro school, their learning is continued. And we love to work with microschooling leaders and parents to help make those days not in person a really great success as well. And Don, if you just want to wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks. So how can we work and help you? First, I gotta thank the Valley Education Fund and Stand Together and EdChoice, who make this incredible work possible, along with the State Policy Network, who gave us their 2021 Education Prize to proliferate partnership microschools that we're doing in a bunch of states around the country. We'd love to help you do it. We run training programs, including operational necessities and goal setting to help you understand what it is about the needs of your learners and your families that you want to build around. We have all sorts of learning tools for inexpensive or free or that we do some contract management for to make it easy for you to use them. We'll help you assess where your kids are, so you can meet them right where they are and make it worthwhile. And just sort of to close by saying that this, to me, is, I've done education work for a long time. This is the most transformative, powerful opportunity that we've seen in our lifetime. And the potential for where this can go in transforming an education sector that is currently responsible for 4.5% of GDP all in, and reasonable people can agree or disagree as to whether or not it should be higher or lower. But I would say at its present very low levels of performance and productivity as a sector, it's probably not sustainable in the economic realities of today. So I just couldn't love this group of people more and what you're accomplishing and what you're doing and where it's going. So thank you.
Robert Jackson from Great Hearts Academies, and it is a pleasure to join you all in many ways because the work that I've been doing for the past almost 10 years with Great Hearts has now been broadened, has been expanded, has come to recognize that the centerpiece of our schools and our communities is, as it always was, the families. And then to describe, or to hear described, the variety, the very nimble quality of entrepreneurial enterprise that is reflected in this room and this panel is, I think, for many of us within an organization of 35 classical charter schools, something of a call to arms, a call to action. How can we get involved where it's really at? We always have said that the parents are the first educators, right? And that our job building brick and mortar schools was to cooperate or to collaborate with our parents. But now it turns out that the parents are taking charge. They're running forward. They're moving ahead. And we want to try to stay up with that. This title slide, I wanted to run right to this one. In every one of our classical academies, you'll see Raphael's School of Athens prominently displayed, in part because within the classical arena, we try to emphasize not only a philosophic and a more humane approach to education, but one that is conversational. And here we have Raphael's depiction of how the philosophers have been in a conversation over the generations, and we'd like to promote that, to perpetuate that. But I'd say that in large measure, what we have done to date, and this is nearly 20 years that Great Hearts has been working to build these liberal arts classical prep schools, we've tried to take from those Phillips Exeters or the Eatons on the other side of the pond and tried to recreate or reconstruct a more democratized, accessible form. I playfully speak of the ivy-colored halls or walls to speak of the importance of an education that emphasizes the type of residential college prep that you've seen even up in Darlington Academy in Rome, Georgia, which I visited here recently. But I would say in part that form, that model is something that we have adapted. We've tried to make more accessible to a much larger audience, and that happens primarily through a core purpose, very simply stated, and I've heard plenty of purpose statements and mission statements come out of this audience and this group. But our purpose is quite clearly to cultivate the minds and hearts of our students in the pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. And I could break that down for you. I know we're sort of running shy on time here, but in short, that means truth is about reality, right? The exploration and understanding of reality. Goodness is about discerning and ultimately practicing virtue. Right? Virtue as in the classical virtues of justice, temperance, courage, prudence, and so forth. But in the end, we really are equipping students with a vision for living, a vision that is beautiful, because human flourishing is, as Aristotle pointed to, our highest, our best, our best person, our best possible person as we now hear today. Now, this was said, as you well know, 2,500 years ago, and that's very much at the heart of our work within Great Hearts. I would mention also in terms of our success that these K-12 classical academies have been at it for almost 20 years as of '03. What began with 120 students is now 23,000 students. We are in metropolitan areas across Arizona and Texas. Next year, we're going to be going into Baton Rouge, and the year after that, likely into Florida. So we're growing, but we're growing in the more traditional manner of brick and mortar schools, creating communities around those facilities. Our curriculum and our pedagogy are fundamentally premised around the notion that we're training young souls to be fully formed, and that as we continue to grow and expand, we want to make sure that the quality and that core mission, that core purpose that I just identified is maintained. Thus, I would want to mention that the growth that we see in classical, and it's represented again in this room and in this conference, has really been extraordinary over the last almost 20 years. What began really as a kind of a fringe movement, as a minority report, so to speak, has expanded now into both classical charter schools like Great Hearts, as well as the private sector, which is well represented here. And our estimates just a couple of years ago were that we were maybe looking at 600, 700,000 students being served. But today, and post-pandemic, we are pretty convinced that there are upwards of 1 million or more. And of course, the growth curve seems to be fairly steep. It continues to climb. I would simply want to then add that the work we're doing in brick and mortar operations is now being reproduced in online schools. And our good fortune, being in Arizona and Texas, respectively, has given us the chance to take our model and to reproduce it using an online platform. And in so doing, to bring this to more families. Because, of course, if you can't get to one of our locations, if you're not proximate to us, well, we can't help you. But at least in Arizona and Texas, we're now making a way using online platform to bring it to more families. And this is where the micro school has caught our attention. Because as we provide an online model, we recognize that a deep part of the work that we do in forming communities in those physical facilities is somehow not translating. You know, it's not sufficient to simply offer this online. We're determined to get closer to those families that are interested in a classical model and to give them more of the community that they would experience if they were with us physically. And thus has been born the notion of a micro school. And this is brand new for us. So I just want to say I'm here as much as a student. I'm presenting Great Hearts to you, but in effect, I'm here to learn and to listen, because if we're going to build micro schools that are sound and that are sustainable, we're going to have to learn from folks like you who are out there very much on the front lines. Our micro school model is built upon the notion that our online curriculum and online resources will be made available to every one of our micro schools, but that micro schools will be led by founders, as we're calling them, perhaps better said, pioneers, who are willing to establish their own little entrepreneurial venture to create the kind of communities that we believe are central to our model. And this will require business savvy, requires a commitment to that purpose I mentioned. It will require a real sense of leadership in the community. Several that I've already heard from today seem to me to be those types of community organizers. They just get it done, right? They're just out there making things happen. And as such, we're going to be tapping into those types of individuals to actually lead their own business operation that is essentially a franchise or an extension of the online community that's being formed with Great Hearts. As you can see up here on this slide, we really are concerned about the enrichment, the sports, the arts, which are so central to our communities. And each one of these micro schools will likely have very distinctive features. The very first in Arizona is being housed, or the facility is a part of a home that's on a farm, which has a deep interest in agriculture and biology and zoology. And so the emphasis at that particular academy or that micro school is going to be based around the concentration of talent that they've attracted around that particular community in the West Valley of Phoenix. But that's just one. Our second is likely to open in Texas, and here again, the distinctives will be pertinent to the relevant community, the relevant features of the community. So for my money, and from where we're sitting right now, it's important for us to learn just how to tailor or to otherwise be responsive with this micro model, depending upon the entrepreneur, the leader, the individual who steps up, sees the value of the classical model, but wants to bring a kind of tailor-made feature to that model in their community. These are the sort of features we're looking for, as I mentioned: mission alignment, which has to do with the classical model, leadership within their community, a real desire to build a business, because it is indeed a business and will require that kind of acumen. The ability also to locate and attract talent. And we're going to be assisting with that because we recruit on a rather large scale, about 500 or 600 teachers a year. So we want to really be able to help micro school leaders find the best teachers and the best support they can get. But ultimately, again, this ownership and entrepreneurial spirit is at the heart of the work. Finally, I'll just mention that as micro schools continue to grow and expand, our desire at Great Hearts is to just bring the expertise that we have from almost 20 years of building good, sound classical schools, but again, being able to translate that, being able to transmit some of that expertise to those families and those entrepreneurs who would like to see the classical model thrive and become a standard bearer in the U.S. Thank you very much.
All right, we have a few minutes for questions. If anyone would like to ask anything. Yep.
So for both the Great Hearts Academy, you said that's a charter school?
Yes.
So it's funded by the state?
It is.
And the same thing for you all in Las Vegas? Was that funded by the state?
Totally outside of per pupil funding through the education system.
Oh, okay.
Creative ways to get public dollars and other dollars engaged.
So we are not a charter school.
Okay. And you didn't use any of those teachers from the public school that were closed down or anything? You found your own, or did you use some of them?
Some. We had a really great team. So, thank you. So some were teachers that wanted to step away from what was happening in the district and do something different. And I mean, I think probably one of my favorite teachers to talk about was actually the head of pyrotechnics at the Knights of the Round Table show out on the Strip in Vegas at the Excalibur. And let me tell you, when middle school students heard about how he used math every day to blow things up, they were interested. So we had a really great team of some former educators, some current educators, and then some really cool industry professionals that came in and just brought some diversity to our team and were really exciting for our students to learn from.
And one more. So what are the average sizes of your micro schools for you all and Mr. Jackson?
We just got started, and our first micro school is about 10 or 12 students, right? And a handful of families. So again, just getting started with that. We would expect that the average size, based on the model, is going to be around 20 students per micro school. But again, this is still in design, so we'll have to let you know more in the next year.
We like 15 kids tops in a classroom with a learning guide, and first and second grade, third and fourth, fifth and sixth. But we can combine different classrooms into, we had 100 kids in North Las Vegas. We've got a couple of micro schools that are over 100 kids, and some that are 10 to 15.
Thanks. Kind of along the similar lines, but just about the teachers anyway. How do you find teachers, recruit teachers, pay teachers? Are you kind of on par with what your local districts are paying? Is that, like, how do you find them and what do you pay them?
So the online model actually permits us greater flexibility. We've been just below average in terms of teacher pay at the state level, right, at the state averages. And this is all available as a transparency exercise, right, on our website, so you can sort of go and see and make that comparison. But again, the online school, which opened up for us in January of 21, is providing us even greater access to the talent pool, because, of course, they can work from their own home, right, from their own residence. We will typically recruit at Great Hearts from institutions, higher educational institutions that emphasize either great works or a core curriculum, an honors college that you find at Baylor, St. John's. For years, we've been one of their top recruiters, employers, straight out of the St. John's pipeline, as it were. Hillsdale, University of Dallas, sort of usual suspects. And then new graduate programs have emerged to support classical education at the University of Dallas, at the Templeton Honors College. Even our own Arizona State University has a liberal arts classical program that was opened up 2 years ago. So that's where we tend to recruit from. But I was visiting Berry College and Todd Timberlake, who's a physics professor up there, in part because we landed on his campus at one point and we're recruiting students, because science teachers, math teachers, these are often some of the biggest gets for us, one of the most difficult areas or disciplines to recruit from. We hire those who have expertise in their subject matter and have a desire and a love for children. So.
All right, I think we can do one more. Yep.
This question's for Don and Ashley. And I apologize, I know SNUMA really well. When SNUMA started, you had both kind of a daycare, like virtual, do the what this district was putting out, and you had the micro school. What can you talk to us about the parents' transition, how they decided to go into the micro school, that it was there in the best interest of them, that parental journey that you had to go through with those families?
Sure. So in the beginning, to make it happen, you're absolutely right. 50% of what we did had to be babysitting kids who were doing the lousy distance learning that was happening in CCSD, Clark County School District schools, on site, which was great for us because we really got to experience it and give the kids computers and really help and get to know. We were when word got out that we started with 100 kids who were disenrolling from the Clark County School District and becoming homeschoolers and working on the schools as homeschoolers. They kind of came after us like no one's ever come after me before. So we accidentally, the website got tripped off accidentally, and we've had to focus to make sure no kid got hurt during pandemic, right? And in the course of doing that, in the beginning, the city was charging basically skin in the game money to families to participate, and the city, in its wisdom, decided to charge more for the kids coming to the Clark County School District babysitting program and less for the microschooling program that we were strongly encouraging. And that went on, and then by the second semester, the city just basically gave up the babysitting program and shifted to the full-on microschooling with their own curricula. And managing that was, but they came after us pretty hard. The most powerful person in the state is the governor's chief of staff, and she was a Clark County School District partisan. So the lawyers traded cease and desist letters. Did Mayor Lee just start opening charter schools by himself? What's going on? And but when the state superintendent of education and her cabinet came to spend the day with us and do a site visit and saw what was going on and saw the learning gains that were happening, she ended up helping us hire people as we grew, which was phenomenal because it felt good to them. But that was the journey, and hopefully, maybe interruptions will again occur. We're not quite sure, but our families are never going back.